Welcome back, dear friends. The Jordan Rich Show continues now at 1:35 Eastern Time. Thanks to Jeffrey Moore for his wonderful music to bring us back. And we're now going to be switching gears. I love anything to do with Abraham Lincoln. We have a couple of Lincoln books ahead in the next couple of months. But I found one that at first I went, huh? It says, Abe Lincoln, Public Enemy number 1. There's a picture of good old Honest Abe with a fedora dressed up in 1930s garb. And Brian Anthony and Bill Walker are the authors. And we know these guys are good because they're from Emerson College originally. And Bill is on the phone right now. I love the book, Bill. Welcome.
Thank you, Jordan, for having me.
Yes.
It's great to talk to somebody in Boston.
Well, yes. And you're in, how long have you been out in the West Coast?
Since 1990.
Oh, then you still hearken for baked beans, good fish, and the Red Sox, I hope, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I don't miss shoveling the snow.
I don't blame you one bit. Well, let me tell you, I oftentimes publicists come to me and say, we'd love you to take a look at this book. And my friend Milt Kahn, who's a great publicist in the West Coast, said, Jordan, you're going to love it. I thought, come on. I looked at it and I said, are you kidding me? And then I started getting into it. It's a very well done, well drawn portrait of Abraham Lincoln, but the story is a little weird. Can you just give us the essence of it? How does Abraham Lincoln wind up in 1934?
Well, John Wilkes Booth, being the superstitious actor that he is, he hooks up with one of the eccentrics that live around Ford's Theater and has the bullet cursed by, a voodoo priest. And he figures he take no chances that Lincoln's going to be dead in this world and the next. The problem is, what a lot of people don't know is his derringer is rifled to spin the bullet counterclockwise, and it's supposed to be spun clockwise for the spell to work correctly. So instead of killing him, it puts him into a coma for 68 years.
Okay.
He wakes up in 1933, and nobody knows what to do with him.
People might think that this is just a spoof and all that. It's more of a science fiction kind of thing. It is a very serious, in many cases, book. But before we get into it, let's talk about you guys back in college, right? And the film. You guys make a film that's pretty much this story, right?
Well,
it
was more of a gag, really. I mean, because we were fans of John Milius's Dillinger, and of course, being Abe Lincoln buffs, and it just came to Brian one day, Abe Lincoln, Public Enemy number 1, just a title, and being the enterprising film students with nothing better to do on a weekend, we started putting this thing together as a short film, which would show him robbing a bank and then getting shot in front of the Biograph Theater like Dillinger was. So it was basically putting him in Dillinger's place.
By the way, John Milius film, was that the Warren Oates version?
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's a good film.
I mean, historically inaccurate in a lot of ways, but it was still very entertaining.
Yes.
And we shot up the bank robbery scene, but we never got to finish the film because the night we went to shoot the Biograph scene in front of the theater, it was so cold the camera wouldn't work, and that part of it never got shot.
Wait a minute. Where did you film that? Was it in like the Orson Welles or something? Where?
No, we were in front of what used to be the Exeter Street Theater.
Oh, okay, sure.
Which is now long defunct, but
it's some kind of a restaurant now, Fridays or something like that. Hey, let me just mention that there's a website, LincolnPublicEnemy.com, where you can actually see the film. It's very short. You can see clips of it, right? Okay.
And you can also see the book trailer for the book itself, too.
All right, so Abraham Lincoln cannot die, even though everything you guys write about is historically pretty accurate. And why do I know that? Because I'm a Lincoln nut. I've read everything from Doris Kearns Goodwin to everybody else about what happens when he's shot and he's taken across to the house,
Peterson house,
right across the street. The bed is kind of short, but he's there, and and I guess in actual terms, Lincoln passed away about 7:20 in the morning, something like that.
7:22.
Oh, well, thank you. 7:22. I'm doing this from memory. He's an expert. But after that, you get this weird story because of the spell and all that. And Lincoln, what would it be like if he survived? Of course, it'd be a miracle, number one. And he outlives his children, including Robert, who lives the longest. And then he winds up here in this time period. You have a scene where he goes to the White House. And who does he meet at the White House?
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Now, I thought for sure FDR would be just gushing and be so happy to see him. Is he?
Not exactly. It's because, you see, part of Lincoln's mindset is that because he was sort of shunted away and government had to continue and Johnson took over, he thinks he might, still actually be president, and FDR is not having any of that. And he doesn't even want him to be a part of his advisor group or whatever you want to call it. And Lincoln basically says, "Okay, fine. If I'll come back in 4 years and run against you." And FDR just is angry as all get out. He basically calls J. Edgar Hoover and says, "Take care of this guy. Put him, make him retire. Put him under house arrest. Just make him go away."
Right, and J. Edgar Hoover plays a role. Boy, J. Edgar Hoover is playing a role in a lot of things. I don't know if you watch Boardwalk Empire, but he's everywhere these days, either in a dress or in plain clothes, and he's doing what he's doing. And he's a rather despicable character who goes after Abe. But it's very interesting because Lincoln's personality comes through in this book. And I know I've read a million books about Lincoln, and you guys really capture that. How much research did you do and your partner do into the mannerisms and the walk and the talk and who he might have fallen in love with, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, it's basically when we started to do this project, we actually were considering almost diametrically different modes of writing this. I come from a primarily fiction background, whereas Brian has actually published nonfiction work. And the other idea would have been to take it from a nonfiction standpoint. But to me, I said, it's really going to work better if you can dramatize scenes, put people in the characters' heads, let them feel their emotions, rather than just having it be, a recitation of pseudo-historical facts.
Yeah, no, it works on many levels. Again, the book is called Abe Lincoln, Public Enemy #1. It's the most unlikely scenario, and yet it worked. I loved it. I've been telling everybody about it. And why it works, because you got the man that most of us, 99.9% of us, think of as our greatest leader, and a man who has so much character. But he's not afraid, in this particular story, to kick butt, if I may be so bold.
Exactly.
And he meets up ultimately, because who would be public enemy #1 but John Dillinger? He meets up with the Dillinger Gang, and that was indeed a gang, included one rather disgusting little fellow named Babyface Nelson.
Yeah, he was a piece of work, all right.
What did you learn about Babyface beyond what we know from movies and things? Was he really that cuckoo?
Apparently, during one of the robberies, which has been depicted in both Dillinger films, he sees a motorcycle cop outside the window, and he just lets loose with a burst of machine gun fire through the window and hits the guy, and he goes, "Hey, I got him!" It's just completely reckless. Yeah. And Lincoln, who's become a part of the gang because Hoover's confiscated the money that his son left for him in trust. And it basically made a deal with Dillinger. I'll go along just until I get my money, then I'm gone. And to Lincoln, just this guy is endangering even that innocent kind of plan.
Right. Yeah. There's a beautiful relationship that Lincoln has with a young lad named Charlie, and the reason it's special is because Lincoln lost two sons, right, in the White House or around.
Willie died in the White House. There was Eddie, who died, like in around 1850.
Oh, right.
And then Tad later, when he was around 18, after Lincoln was already dead. So
and then
Robert was the only one that made it to adulthood and beyond.
Right. So Lincoln, of course, and you saw that in the movie, which was depicted brilliantly by Daniel Day-Lewis. Lincoln had such a connection to his kids, to his boys, and he used to play with them in the White House and all that. Was one of the few respites he had. And he has to deal with another young boy who he sort of takes over and I don't want to say becomes a foster parent to him, but he sort of protects him to a certain extent. He can only protect him so much. It's a very stirring and moving chapter in the Lincoln saga. So I just wanted to tip of the hat to you for that. And Mary Todd Lincoln doesn't figure too much in here because she would have been long gone. But her end was pretty sad, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, as we all know, she never really got over what happened to her husband, and was very much into the whole spiritualist medium thing, which I think her son kind of tolerated until it got to the point where she was just off the rails, and he had to actually have her committed at one point.
Right. Talking with Bill Walker, who along with Brian Anthony has written Abe Lincoln, Public Enemy #1, an alternate history. Why do I love alternate history so much? Can you tell me? I've just read another one about Kennedy called Unafraid. Can you tell me why we love this stuff so much?
Because it's that age-old question, what if? What if this happened instead of that? And for me as a writer, it's wonderful to let my imagination go and create things like that. And the challenge for doing this story was, can we take what was essentially a joke in film school and make it a really serious, straightforward story that people would buy into? I like to think that we succeeded with that because we were honest with how we treated the characters.
It is very much so. There's one particular page that features a wanted poster. Now get this, folks. And he changes his name to Abe Lancaster. But there's a wanted poster. I'll show the boys in studio. Wanted for the murder of a federal agent. When details on that, you can read the book. And the photo of the pictures of Lincoln, front shot and then a side view. It's the penny picture, folks. Okay,
yep.
It's the Matthew Brady, and of course that's what they would have used in 1934, right? Because that's Abe Lincoln.
Right, exactly.
and people throughout the story, as preposterous as this may sound, it works. People will sometimes run into Abe Lincoln, who's pretending he shaves the beard off at one point, pretending to be somebody else, and they'll say, "Gosh, you look familiar. Why do I know? Why do I know you?" There's some funny moments that occurred in there as well. So I think you pulled that off. And without giving anything away, although we've given away a lot, let's just say Lincoln is ageless, isn't he?
I'm sorry, he's what?
He's ageless, even.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously you had to make that sort of part of the spell in order for him to function in the environment that he's been put into, and you can have a lot of fun with it that way too.
You sure can, and it's better than the UFOs at Roswell, if I'm thinking about this, in terms of what the president knows, the current president, whoever's in the White House.
Right.
Well, what do you do with it now? I'm just going to ask you this: Do you, since you're in L.A. and all that, do you approach movie people and say, "Hey, here's an idea for a movie. We did it in 1976 at Emerson College, and now we have the book. What do you say?" Has there been any interest?
Well, we're just starting to sort of, put our toes in the water in that respect and send the book out to selected people, and hopefully they'll look at it and, the cover is going to draw their eye for sure, and it's not like it's a screenplay, which they've got a million of them piled up on their desk. A book is going to be looked at a little more seriously, I would think.
When you see the cover, when you see this cover, you say, "Oh my God, that's Abe Lincoln, and why is he dressed in a fedora?"
Exactly.
Well, listen, you're a terrific writer. You and Brian have pulled off a real coup here. People can go to LincolnPublicEnemy.com. And what else do you do besides write great books like this, my friend?
Well, I'm also a graphic designer. I design books.
So did you do the cover art for this yourself?
Well, I commissioned the artist to do it. There's no way I could draw and paint like that.
That's a
guy by the name of Vince Natale did the painting, and he's done other work for me as well. But yeah, I did all the design concept for the book. And
Emerson College did you well, you and your buddy?
I'm sorry?
Did Emerson College do you well? Obviously, you're.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, I wouldn't trade my years there for anything. It certainly taught me a lot of things both easy and hard. I actually directed a feature film while I was still in college and just graduating. I like to tell people that it's the only movie I'm aware of that made its money back without ever being released.
Wow. You bought tickets to something that never showed. Is that what happened?
No, it's just that we finished the film. It got the negative got stored at the laboratory. The laboratory moved, locations, and they lost it.
Oh, I see.
so they paid us back, with interest at that point. So.
Well, what's the name of the film? Maybe it'll turn up somewhere.
Oh, it's in my storage space as a rough cut only. That's all it'll ever be, unfortunately.
Well, one never knows. This thing became a book, so who the hell knows, right? You might bring it all back. And one more question: were there any other notables in your graduating class at Emerson?
Stephen Wright.
Oh. He listens. By the way, he may be listening right now. He's always listening to the show. He's
a great guy. I mean, I didn't really hang with him personally, but his humor was always pointed. In fact, he had a Lincoln joke that I remember. He said, I saw Abe Lincoln on the subway. I gave him a penny.
I love Stephen Wright. Here's one that I love. I'm really into the Stones, Barney and Fred. See, that's the kind of thing that Anyway, you did it better than I did. Thank you, Bill Walker. I really mean it. I love the book. I really wish you the best with it. It's called Abe Lincoln, Public Enemy #1, and it's not as funny as that title might suggest. It's very well done. Thank you so much, sir, and good luck.
And thank you for having me.
All right, a real pleasure. Take care. Quick time out. We shall return with much more and the music tonight, courtesy of our friends at the piano, Jeffrey Moore and Doug Hammer. We'll be right back.